Thank you so much, and for Director Bian just promote me a little bit. I want to deliver this to my boss. And thank you for the organizer for inviting me. I'm Jason Jiang, and I'm from the GM Market Research, and I'm the China manager. And everybody's an old friend to me. And thank you so much for the organizer. Arrange this meeting. It's beautiful time and getting together here with everybody. Today I'm going to share with you about topic of the influence of vehicle electrification for Chinese PGM demand. And I'm going to say the disclaimer, and all of this information, resources of this report cannot be used for the purpose of the investment and commercial purposes. I'm going to share from three parts and to you. First of all, I'm going to go back to the global and the PGM demand. And I'm going to share with you about the development of China's NEV market and look into the future. And I'm going to recap on the China NEV technology and PGM loadings and the changes of PGM. And the last part of this report, I'm going to share with you the summary of our report. First of all, let's go to the first part. I'm going to share with you about global PGM demand. You can see this chart, and it's shared to you about from year 2016 to 2024 throughout the whole country, PD and PT and PH and the gross demand and the global demand. And this is from the JMPGM market report. And have a look at the column, blue, green, and red, and represent the global PT and PD and RH and global demand. And you can see in year 2019, due to the peak and of the demand of the vehicle industry. And since year 2019, PD and PT and RH, the global demand reached a historical high. At the same time, we can also see that there are three different curves, and from top to the bottom, we can see the green and the red and the blue, these three different colors of the curves. The green represent the car industry, and you can see the RH demand account for the overall RH demand of the whole industry. And in terms of the specific data, please go to the columns on the right, and the curve in red, and we can see the global vehicle demand and for PD and represent the overall global PD demand. And the curve in blue represent throughout the whole automobile industry, and the PD demand in the automotive industry account for the overall market share of the global PD demand. And from top to the bottom, and you clearly see that the shares of RH and PD are higher than 80%, and you can clearly see over 80%, and the PT demand is over 80%, and we can see and throughout the whole automobile industry, and accounted for a very high percentage of all global PD demand. And for the next chapter, I'm going to share with you about the overall vehicle industry, the overall demand of PT, PD, and RH. Similarly, you can see we use a column, and this column shares from year 2016 to year 2024. Throughout the whole automobile industry, the overall gross demand information comes from a JM PGM market report. And please have a look at the column. You can see blue represent and the overall and PT demand of the automobile industry, and the red represent the overall global automotive industry demand, and the green represent the overall global automotive RH demand. And for the specific data, please refer to the right side. And in year 2021, and due to the lightweight car vehicle, the increased demand, and due to the outbreak of COVID and the shortage of the chips and the catalyst of the automobile industry, and all of these reasons and caused that in year 2019, so the overall global demand of PD, PH, and PT reached a historical high. And there are three curves on the chart, and the green on the top represent for China's and automobile industries PH market overall shares and of the global PH market demand. Red represent the China PD market and the market shares of the global PD market. And you can see, and for the green line, and since year 21, and gradually down, going to the downward, and we estimated that, and the demand of PD and PH will account for 16%, 28% separately, and we can see the market demand is decreasing gradually, and the line of blue represent China's automobile industry's demand for PD, PT, and you can see that since year 2022, and the shares of PT are going up, and it is estimated that, and by 2024, the number will reach 18%. So you will see that YPT and YPD and RH are decreasing, and YPT is increasing because due to the adoption of China VIHDD and substitution for palladium in LDG. And we can clearly see that in the very beginning we talked about why China's automotive industry, the market share is decreasing because there are more and more new energy vehicles, and a lot of electrical vehicles are increasing in the China market. So that's why I'm going to share with you about Chinese and EV market. And you can see, and this is about year 2018 and to the first 5 months of 2024, and the overall sales volume of the Chinese and EV. And this source comes from CPCA. So the column in blue and represent the total sales of the PEV, and the red represent plug-in hybrid, the total sales of PHEV. And please notice that plug-in and hybrid includes plug-in hybrid and the FC EV. And we can see that in year 2023, so the total sales of China's new energy vehicles increased by 36.4, and the total and the sales volume and reached 7.7 million units. PHEV sales increased by 82.5 to reach 2.6 million units, and the three curves, blue, red, green, blue, and red represent and the NEV and the BEV and the PHEV and the EREV's market penetration in the first five months of this year. And you can see the Chinese NEV penetration in the first 5 months increased to 40.3%, of which BEV and PHEV made up 23.9% and 16.4% respectively. And we can see from these curves and the China's and NEP market penetration. And in the first 5 months of 2024, the performance was very stable. However, PHEV, and due to the increased willingness of the purchasers and clients, and then PHEV sales will go up gradually. So after knowing more historical points of China's NEV market, and in the future, have a look at the future development of PHEV, and according to the company compliance, and you can see this information, and the sources are from RH company, and they have done and this research in April this month and October last month, and they've done and the kind of the cumulative change from year 2023 to 2032. You can see the column and in the left and shows PHEV. So the cumulative change is about 9.3 million, and the increase percentage is 27%, and EREV 8.5 million, and you can see the changes is about 107%. Of course, there are the other ICE and other hybrid vehicles. You can see for the 10 years, you can see PHEV and EREV production is increased more than 19.6 million units.
市场的情况，作为我们更关。
It's an overall view of the BEV market in China. And however, today our topic is all about PGM. Therefore, we need to have a look at their engine first, because that is very much about the demand of the PGM in the market. Now, I would like to share with you the trend of the technology or China NEV technology and the PGM loading. If you look at this picture from left to right, it is BEV, EREV, and PHEV respectively. Please note that each of the structure has a blue block which indicates battery. And from the size difference of the battery, you can feel that actually BEV has the largest size of the battery, and the PEV and the EREV are smallest. We understand all of the vehicles requires a battery, but EREV and the PHEV versus BEV has a green block. In addition, which indicates engine or motor. We understand that EREV and the PHEV requires a motor. However, this engine, the EREV engine only provides the power for charging the battery rather than driving the car, while the PHEV engines can drive the car directly. Therefore, the black line above the green block indicates that the engine delivers a model that is able to drive the vehicles directly forward, which is what we call ICE model. So far, we are talking about the PHEV and the EREV. Most of those vehicles are using the rhodium or RO-based platform. Therefore, we really need to dive into depths of the platinum or PGM loadings in China's NEV technology and NEV market. So this picture shows the 2013 to 2023, the trend of the Chinese LDG PGM loadings. We only show you trends instead of absolute figures within the purpose of compliance. So we understand that the charts, for every time we launch a new regulations in China's EV market, there was a much greater increase with the introduction, with a much stringent regulations. However, in 2022, there is a peak in the PGM loadings. That is because the introduction of China 6A. And so back then, a lot of vehicle makers just go directly to 6B in order to reduce the cost. And a lot of players, in order to launch the 6B vehicles to the market to improve their competitiveness. And back then also, the PGM, PD, and RO price is pretty desirable, quite reasonable in the market. And that is why we see a peak during 2020. And back then, many of the vehicles has already met the requirements of 6B. So if we look at 2023, why we see 6B online, we are able to see that the averagely the PGM loadings in this market versus that of 2020, it is a downward trend. And that is because the cost is up. And that is because the PGM utilization or consumption is declining. And then talking about the cost saving and what is the practice. And because there is improvements in domestic OEM engine performance, collaborations, and the catalyst technology. Average PGM loadings for the introduction of China 6B were much lower than for China 6A. So now we are talking about PHEV and EREV. Most of those vehicles are produced on a rhodium-based platform. So in order to update the news, this is... So if you look at the left hand, it is a PHEV, and the right hand is EREV. We have followed up the trend of the thrifting trend of these two kind of vehicles. The trend is collected from 2022 and 2024. Because of the thrifting trend, there's almost no OEMs developed those new models independently. So versus ICE, there's two trends that is noteworthy. First of all, homegrown brand. And because the ICE engine cost is down greatly and even lower than the average PGM loadings in China, therefore, for EREV and PHEV, the cost can be comparable to those BEV, and versus a JV brand, its average loadings is higher than the average loadings in China market. Therefore, the performance there is a kind of PHEV and the EREV PGM loadings will be slightly lower than the old engine platforms, and the performance improve to BEV levels. So, and this year we have seen a trend that a lot of OEMs is trying to launching new platforms dedicated to the production of EREV and the PHEV. And thanks to this new platform versus the old PHEV and the EREV, we will see a thrift trend of PGM loadings. But the new platforms in terms of accelerations and smartification, it is able to compete with the BEV. So up to now, I would like to give a summary of this presentation. First of all, due to the rapid electrification of automotive industry in China, PGM demand is forecast to remain on the downward trend from this point, particularly for palladium and rhodium. Based on the current forecast, Chinese PHEV and EREV production is expected to grow strongly in the coming years. It will help to mitigate the decline in PGM demand due to increased electrification. For the same engine platform, PGM loadings for both EREV and PHEV models are currently very similar. As greater experience of EREVs is gained, it may be possible for loadings to go lower for the PHEVs, as the engine exhaust emissions can be optimized better. So the application of the new PHEV and the EREV engine platforms will help to thrift PGM loadings, but only to a very limited extent. Thank you. That's all from me.